So, Joe, last week we did a soundbite episode on what to do if your marketing efforts aren't working and you're not getting the clients, and it's so frustrating. But another question we get asked a lot is, how do I stand out when my industry feels crowded? I feel like there's going to be a lot of overlaps between the two episodes, but with some changes because we're not just start talking about marketing, I guess. I want to say something. I don't think a crowded market is necessarily the problem. I think a vague business is the problem. Very few people are going to be unicorns in the sense that they're not going to have competition or a lot of competition.
And as we've talked about, that's not really a big problem for most solopreneurs because they're not trying to rule the world.
No.
Right? So there's room.
Yeah, there is room, especially as the solopreneur world continues to grow at a rapid pace like it is. So a crowded market is almost a given. I hate to say it because people don't want to hear that. They want to think that they're going to stand out and it's to be easy. And I would argue there's never been a harder time to stand out in the world between online space, AI, everything is global. Like in terms of the customers you can reach, it's really, really hard. Content is being produced at a rapid pace because of AI. It's just really tough.
Bad content,
but content nonetheless, which makes it hard because that used to be a differentiator for people. So now you really need to look inwards and think, how am I different? The market may not be different, but how am I different? Is it the way I talk to people? Is it the way I market? Is it my process? Like, is the working experience people get with me different than the working experience that people get with another person doing the same thing that I do? I think to stand out, you just really have to show, especially as a solopreneur, who you are and how you work and see if it's a good fit. I won't name names, but we signed on with a social media company a couple months ago to see if we could maybe set them up with or take that off of our plates. And the way that the process worked, it wasn't a good fit. I'm not saying it's a bad company. They're a great company. They have great reviews, but they weren't a good fit for us. And they didn't fully grasp our tone, our style, our personality. And it wasn't the right process. There was nothing wrong with the company. We just didn't work well with them. And so you need to think of how you can portray that to your audience. I would say number one. Before I move on, Joe, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right that it's a function of differentiating yourself in some way that is important to the client. But I guess the only thing that kind of leads me to is to say, when we talking about solopreneurs, it really, I think one of the best ways to differentiate yourself is kind of, and I'll use the term, but I don't quite mean it exclusively this way, personal brand, right? But I really mean you, as you were pointing out, and it's like you have a certain personality, a certain approach. And if people get to know you, there are certain people that are likely going to be attracted to you as the person that they would like to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some solopreneurs hide behind a business. They say they have a business name and they say we instead of I, and they try to pretend they're a bigger company when they're not. But in a way, you're not playing your superpower, right? Your superpower is you're one person. What you see is what you get. It's not going to get handed off like we always talk about agencies, and you go to an agency and you get handed off to the kid that just graduated college. And I don't know. It just, to me, I think that's people are shooting themselves in the foot there. So that's my take on it.
I think knowing who you are is a personal brand, but also knowing who you are not. And that's another big thing that you should share with your audience in terms of standing out. Is you're not going to be right for everybody. Somehow this gal was in my wedding and is still one of my best friends to this day, but she is not a morning person. And when we work together in person, I'm like a jolt of caffeine in the AM. And so she'd walk in and I'd be like, oh, blah, 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 this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And it got to the point where she'd put up her hand and say, not now, Carl. She called me Carl. Not now, Carl. And I knew I couldn't talk to her for 45 minutes. And I know I was not her cup of tea in the morning. We didn't mesh. And you need to, if you are a person that doesn't like bright and chipper people in the morning, like you just don't work with me because that's when I'm going to be on my A game. And I'm going to be a little drowsy in the afternoon and kind of low energy. And if that's when you work best, we're not going to work well together. So I think even just knowing those little things about the people that you're trying to stand out to, say, if you don't like this, if you don't like this, if you don't like this, I'm not the solution for you. But hey, these people might be, and be helpful. And also consider that as a way to stand out. Like don't bash other people in your street, be helpful, and that will also separate you from a lot of.
That's such good advice. If you're not the right fit, send them to somebody that is. If you're completely booked, send them to somebody that's got some availability. That worked so well for us at our last company. People would come to us and they couldn't afford us most of the time because we were the high price leader, and we would send them to this other company that was lower priced, and they were like, "Thank you," and then sometimes they get more budget and come back to us later, a year later, 2 years later. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Just be helpful. That's always a good thing.
I think the other thing in terms of standing out, so we talk about niching down in almost all of our episodes. So I'm not going to dive into it because sometimes even when you niche down, it's still a crowded market. I mean, that's just the state of our world. Like you still might have competition no matter how far down you niche, however you want to pronounce it. So when you get to that point, I think a big thing to consider is a point of view. If you have niched down as far as you can and you still.
In terms of who you serve, you're saying. So just to be clear, so yeah, we help. Carly has a business helping women, that have school age children, develop additional educational programs for their kids when they come home from school, or I don't know, I'm just making it up. So yeah, so you've got something like that, but so that you can take it beyond that.
And because there still might be people like as specific as that was, there still be maybe people competing for your attention. Having a point of view these days is so important. Joe, you talked about this on the last episode, but I mean, to the point like you'll probably offend people, and I know that makes people squirm and that makes people feel uncomfortable. But if you just say the same thing that everybody else is saying, then you're going to get thrown in with everybody else. But if you stand there and be like, this is the stance I'm taking, like it or don't, again, the like it people will want to work with you. The don't people, you can refer to the other competition within your space. But I know that came up last week, but I just feel like it's worth saying. um, and I would say to stand out, become a good storyteller. People don't need I got this award at this thing and I'm blah, blah, I'm ranked this and I'm so awesome. They want a story. They want to be the hero of that story. Not a lot of, I mean, even though it's said time and time again to use story, not a lot of people use it. And so if you could position your business in a storytelling way that relates to people, that will get rid of a lot of your competition if you can master that craft. And you need to master it. You can't rely on ChatGPT to master it for you. You could train ChatGPT to work with you on it, but it should really be a big skill that you possess in order to stand out from the crowd. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I like using ChatGPT to see how to do it wrong. I'll give ChatGPT certain prompts and then go, oh yeah, that's not at all right. And then, but it does inspire me to kind of see, what I'm saying? It gives you that contrast to work from. It can save you some time. And sometimes it has a good idea. So I don't want to discourage people from using ChatGPT. You just don't want to, it should start with you and start with, how you see yourself in the story that you're telling.
And I think the last thing I want to say is to be authentic and transparent. If you guys don't follow Marcus Sheridan, he is so great about saying, put your pricing on your website, answer all the questions, be vulnerable, be honest about what you do, what you don't do. I think I've said that enough on this show in today's episode, but show all of your cards. Don't hide anything. They're going to figure it out one way or another, whether it's before they hire you or after they hire you. So you may filter the ones you don't want to work with out at the beginning, then wait to get through the whole lead nurturing process and all the way to the sale and maybe even beyond to find out you guys aren't a good fit. So just put everything out there because, again, not everybody does that. So that's a big differentiator as well.
That's a great point, Carly. And on that, like with Marcus, he'll basically tell people, he was in the pool business, like he did fiberglass pools, and he on his website would tell people the downfalls or the negatives of fiberglass pools versus other kinds of pools. So he would say, this is why they're better, but this is the things that are worse, and it might not be right for you. You might want a gunite pool or a liner pool. I don't know all the details, but he would literally tell people, let them figure out that they did not need his product, but the people that did trusted him so much because of that they were being fed the truth that he just got all the sales.
Yeah.
That he was due, so to speak.
Yes. Absolutely. So I think those are my 2 cents. If you are having issues standing out in a crowded market, try to go through this checklist and see what you could be doing differently. And maybe, hopefully, that will help move the needle. Anything else, Joe?
I'm done.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please leave that 5-star review. It really helps us spread our message to other solopreneurs who are in your shoes. And that is why we do what we do. We genuinely like helping people. So those reviews will help us do that. Share this episode with a friend that's having trouble standing out in a crowded market. And be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. That includes YouTube. We have a video. This recording is up there as well. So do that, and we'll see you next time on The Aspiring Solopreneur.